When I'm planning to pull injectors or glow plugs a couple of days ahead of time, if I have that option, I like to pull the engine cover off and really get things lubricated with some PP Blaster. Glow plugs are over here. Get it good and wet, and then drive the van. Get it good and wet again, drive the van some more. Now that my injectors have been soaking a couple of days in PP Blaster, I've driven it a couple of times. Going to get out all the tools first. Make sure I've got all my injector removal tools ready. Some wine corks to fill the holes, or some paper towels. Pipe cleaners and Q-tips to clean those threaded hold down bolt holes. And we're going to drive the van until it's warm. The injector cover is loose, so I won't have to let the engine cool down while I fight with any of these strip bolts. And the injector cover is there to keep the heat in for right now. We're going to warm the van up and park it here and right away start digging after those injectors. I've got the van up to operating temperature now, so I'm going to pull that engine cover off. And before I pull the injectors out, I'm going to do a quick test, a leak off test on them. So I'm going to clamp this line. We have 2 or 3 videos on injector leak off testing at floridavanman.com. Search button on the right hand side, search for injectors. And crank the engine for 10 seconds. So we have 4 very similar results with one very different color fuel coming out of that one. That's curious. Reset and ready to do it again. This time we're going to do it with the cam sensor plugged in. I'm going to do the running test and let the van run for 10 to 15 seconds. Very similar results. So the leak-off test didn't really point to any problems, but I'm going to go forward with pulling these injectors and having them tested, because leak-off is only one way they can fail, and there's a bunch of ways they can fail. A few years ago, I had a little trouble with my Sprinter. It wasn't running quite right. I was still working my communications job full-time, so I didn't have time to work on it and fiddle with it, figure out what was wrong, so I took it to Sprinter Van City in Fort Pierce, Florida. It was the only shop around that I could find that seemed to know anything about Sprinters, or at least I assumed they knew something about them because of the name on the front of their building and all the Sprinters parked in their lot. I did not know what a crook that man is, but anyhow, he told me the engine blew up on a test drive. Well, that's unlikely, but what am I going to do? I'm working, I'm doing my thing. Yeah, fix it, do whatever it takes. Tried to charge me $10,000 to replace the engine. I got on the interstate and still had the same problem when I left his shop, so I called the bank, called my lawyer, and called my wife. We canceled that check. Got home, found out it's still my engine in the van. Some of the parts that I put on it several years ago, like a spacer behind an idler pulley, a couple of nuts because I lost the spacer, my parts were still there. Scratches that I put on the engine, working on it. I've done a lot of work on it, so I knew this was still my engine. Well, Canceled the check. Nothing really became of it. Guy threatened to sue me. I threatened to sue him back. I put my file folder together of evidence, and then pandemic broke, so I never got to the courthouse with my paperwork. Now here we are several years later. Time to take a look at my van again. I'm going to pull the injectors out for testing because it just doesn't have the power it should have. This is what I found. You motherfucker. All right, these injectors were put in a few years ago by Sprinter Van City, and one of them's not even a proper injector hold-down bolt. When I started loosening this bolt that is not an injector hold-down bolt, water started seeping out of the hole. Clearly they had a bolt break or the whole thread stripped, and they drilled it out incorrectly to retap it, put some helicoils in there that are done poorly. On the left we have a proper stretch bolt. On the right we have what Sprinter City installed. I can see and feel two sets of helicoils down inside the hole, and they're not aligned, so I can only thread a bolt onto the first one and then the second one hits. Alright, now the engine's still hot, trying to get out as quick as I can. 13 millimeter socket, deep socket on an extension. Look at that injector's coming right out. Move on to the next one. Coming right out. Move on to the next one. Oh, look at that. Coming right out. Now, this is the one that had gasket maker and a short bolt for an injector hold down. God only knows what else they did here. The fuck is that? So this seems like a good place to insert a little confidence booster. If you're doing your own repairs DIY style and something goes wrong, don't be too hard on yourself. The professionals screw it up too once in a while. Now, a professional shop in a situation like this would have two choices. They'd either charge the customer an exorbitant amount of money to fix it, or they'd hide it. Unfortunately, this shop in Fort Pierce, Florida did both.
So this might be a good time to remind you, when your Sprinter isn't running so well and you're at the end of your rope, we've been there. That's why we made the videos and the channel.
A membership to Florida Van Man Patreon group will help you avoid a lot of these expensive repairs and help you clean up messes like this, even if you made them yourself or somebody made them for you.